Trevor Lawrence has had an unbelievable college career. He is a two-time ACC champion. He led Clemson to a national championship last year. He was named MVP in that title game. And oh, by the way, he's never lost as a collegian. He's 25-0 as a starter. And if you're trying to gauge his NFL potential, just look at the numbers. They're ridiculous. These are the last three #1 overall picks. And Lawrence, his numbers are going to be better. Practically everything about his college career is going to wind up being as good, if not better, than anything we've ever seen before. And here's another thing we can say about Trevor Lawrence. He would have been the first pick in the NFL draft if he had come out last year. He would be the first pick in the NFL draft if he were to come out this year. And he will most likely be the first pick in the NFL draft when he's allowed to come out next year. And so it has brought to some people's mind the notion that the safest and smartest thing for him to do would be to sit out next year so as to not run any risk of injury and not play for Clemson, despite all the things they could accomplish. Again, Laura, to set the stage, you've heard that conversation. You don't think there's any real chance he would do it?
Absolutely no chance he would do it. I mean, I would actually say zero chance that Trevor Lawrence sits out next year. And here's the reason why. I understand why some players might and why they might want to. But in talking to some people at Clemson and knowing Trevor Lawrence a little bit, he's a guy that would consider that a selfish move. Now, that a lot has to do with the fact that he doesn't have to do this to set up his family. He's from a small town in Cartersville, Georgia. He wants to continue to play college football as long as he can. So much of this in his mind would be looked at as selfish. That's not the type of player he is, and he loves playing in college football.
So Acho and Dominique, we all had a chance to comment on this a little earlier. I wanted to get Jalen and Jay Will in on this conversation because basketball has its own rules. We're all where they call it the one and done rule rather than 3 years and all of that. Jay Will, what do you make of this discussion and the decision that Trevor Lawrence in theory could make?
If I were Trevor Lawrence, I would call Tua. And I would ask him, about why he decided to come back and play. And I understand how, the word selfish gets thrown into these types of scenarios. And I also say, Clemson will be able to move on without Trevor Lawrence. But if Trevor Lawrence were to get hurt, granted he would have insurance policy, would Trevor Lawrence be able to move on after if he were to play next year? Like that's something, and people say, hey, can't be selfish, but Clemson is taking care of their business. Trevor Lawrence needs to look at his body as a business. And I think it's really, it's troublesome for a lot of younger athletes because they get that selfish thing thrown up. Do what's in the best interest for your teammates. You owe it to your school. And with all due respect, he doesn't owe anything to Clemson or his teammates.
I think what happened to Tua is the exception, not the rule. I think Trevor Lawrence, based on the position that he plays, should play football. A quarterback sitting out an entire year, that doesn't necessarily get you better for the NFL. Also, the stigma at that position would be a lot different than somebody that plays defensive end to me. We would now start to pick apart everything about his life other than his game. So, and he could get an insurance policy as well. So if I'm Trevor Lawrence, I come back and play big-time collegiate football and see if I can win 3 in a row and never lose a collegiate game.
But the exception can happen.
Yeah.
The exception can happen.
They haven't beaten LSU yet.
We're so glad you're watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports and analysis, download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, make sure you subscribe to ESPN+. We'll see you there.